Debt sucks. Like, it literally sucks your hard-earned money out of your hands and into the hands of somebody else. So if you're itching to eliminate your debt, I will support you all the way. But before you start kicking your debt to the curb, you need to have a battle plan. And by the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly which debt elimination plan is gonna work best for you so you can start attacking your debt today. We'll go over the details right after this. Hey there, I'm Adam Hagerman, your financial coach, and if you're saying things like, with my income, I shouldn't feel this stressed about money, then you're in the right place. This channel is all about helping you better understand your money so you can use it as a tool to help you achieve financial freedom. And today, we're talking about your debt, specifically the methods that you're gonna consider when you start attacking and eliminating your debt. So each one of these methods is gonna require you to list out the debts that you have. So to start, make sure you list out the name of your debt, the total balance that you owe on that debt, the interest rate on that debt, as well as the absolute minimum payment that you need to make on that debt. If you have any debts that have a deferred 0% interest rate on them, you need to probably recalculate what your minimum payment should actually be on those credit cards. So you're gonna find these deferred 0% interest rates on cards like Care Credit, PayPal, Best Buy, Lowe's, furniture stores, those types of things. And if this applies to you, if you find any boxes on your credit card statements that talk about promotional deferred interest rates, certainly check out this video right up here that I'm gonna link to that I go over deferred interest rates and recalculating what your minimum payment should be. So to go over each method, I'm actually gonna hop over onto my whiteboard. So let's go over there. All right, so let's analyze the different methods that you can use to eliminate your debt. We're not gonna go over yet which plan is best for you. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video here. But what I really just wanna outline is the different types of plans and then how you rank the debts that you have in those different plans. And for all of the plans, what you're essentially going to do is you are going to pay the minimum on all of your debts except the highest ranking debt. So what debt are you prioritizing first? You're gonna focus on that prioritized debt first, pay the minimum on everything else, and then once that first debt that you've prioritized is paid off, you are going to then take that extra payment and kind of roll it down to the next item on the list. So what we're gonna go over here really is just how to rank the different debts that you have based on the method that you're gonna choose. So let's assume then that this is the current debt that you have. Let's say you've got 3 credit cards. Here are the balances, the interest rates, as well as the minimum payments that you need to make. You've got a family loan. You borrowed money from grandma. You owe her $5,000. She said, oh, it's at 0%, honey. You don't have to pay me anything, but if you want to pay me $50 a month, that would be fine. So you've got that family loan, you've got this auto loan, $3,000, 1.9%, $350 minimum payment. You got a personal loan and then a student loan as well. So totaled up, your minimum payments on all of your debt is $1,220. And we're going to assume then too that you've completed all the exercises before eliminating your debt. You've created a budget and you found out that you can pay an extra $200 a month on top of your minimum payments to your debt to pay them off aggressively. So let's go over the 4 methods that I like to talk about here. Most people, most financial educators and coaches and things will usually only talk about the first 2. You're gonna see a lot about those. So I call the first one the lowest balance method. You may have heard of it referred to as the snowball method before. There's also the highest interest rate method. A lot of times people call that the Avalanche method. And then I also talk about the emotional method as well as the cash flow method. So let's go over each one of these in detail here first and see how you're gonna rank these different debts according to the method that you choose. So with the lowest balance method, you're obviously going to be listing your debts from lowest balance to highest balance. So if we look at the different debts here, we're gonna say, okay, lowest balance method, which one am I gonna prioritize first? It's gonna be the one with the lowest balance. So you're gonna see here, credit card number 2, $800 balance, that's gonna be the first one that I'm gonna prioritize here in this lowest balance method. And if you can't see already, I'm kind of color coding these so you can kind of notate and look back at them at some point. So then we look at the list here and say, okay, 800 is the lowest. What's the next lowest balance? Okay, well then we look here and we say, oh, look, it's the auto loan. So then we say, okay, that's gonna be the second one that we're gonna prioritize. Once this first credit card is paid off, You're going to pay $220 to that on a monthly basis, $20 minimum payment plus the extra $200 down here. So you're going to pay that one off. Once that gets paid off, you're going to roll that extra money then down here to the car loan, number 2 in this ranking. Number 3 then is going to be this credit card number 1 up here. Number 4 then is going to be the family loan. Number 5 is going to be the personal loan. Number 6 then is going to be this other credit card. And then number 7 finally is going to be the student loan down here. So you're ranking them again from lowest balance to highest balance. So then the next method that we're going to look at is the highest interest rate method, or the Avalanche method. So what you do with this method is that you rank them according to the interest rate. You start with the highest interest rate first, and then you go down to the lowest interest rate. So if we're ranking these first, okay, what's number 1 here? What's the highest priority debt first? According to the highest interest rate method, we are then going to focus on the one with the highest interest rate, and that's going to be credit card number 1 here. So instead of number 3 in the lowest balance method, we're going to focus on this one first here in the highest interest rate method. And then we're going to go to the next highest interest rate. That is going to be this personal loan down here. So we're going to go number 2 here instead of number 5. Then we've got, what's next after that? I'm sorry. Yeah, I went out of order here. So actually, geez, this is going to be number 2 here. Number 3 is going to be credit card number 2. And down here, this is actually going to be number 4. The personal loan is going to be number 4. And then we go to the student loan, number 5. Number 6 then is going to be the auto loan. So not a very high priority on this list here. And then the family loan at 0% is going to be number 7 in this highest interest rate method. Now, with the emotional method, what I want you to do is I want you to analyze the debts that you have, and I want you to see if there's any kind of additional emotion attached to that debt. So, for example, maybe you look at this family loan and you go, okay, I know it's 0%, it's really ranked really low in the highest interest rate method, it's a higher balance, it's ranked number 4 in this lowest balance method, but man, I really want to pay grandma off because, you know, it bothers me knowing that I owe her money. I was in a really tight pinch at that time, and she's on a fixed income. She, you know, barely has enough to buy groceries. She says it's not a problem, but I want to pay it first because I'm going to feel a lot better then if I do that. So in that example, then maybe you say, I want to prioritize this family loan first, right? So you've got some emotions attached to that. So you rank that number 1 in the emotional method. Then you might look at some other things, look at your other debts, you know, maybe credit card number 1, you look at this balance and you go $3,400, but you know what that is. That is legal fees for a rough divorce that you went through. That is a medical bill for your child who has leukemia. There's some emotion attached to that credit card there. So you want to get rid of that, so you get rid of that amount of money that you owe for that thing that is very emotional to you. So then maybe you rank that one number 2 here in this example. And then you look at the remaining debts and you go, it's just debt. There's not really any emotion attached to it anymore. So once you get to the point where all the debt is now just debt, I would recommend then, you know, choosing then going back to either doing the lowest balance method or the highest interest rate method. So if you said, okay, emotional method is what I wanted initially, but then I'm going to go to the lowest balance method. So you would prioritize them that way, and then you'd go back to the lowest balance method and you would go, okay, those 2 things are now paid off. What is the lowest balance item that's remaining? Okay, it might be this one in that example. So, you know, you got number 3 there. And then you go down to the auto loan. So you got number 4. Number 5 then is going to be the personal loan, I believe. Yeah, so number 5 is going to be the personal loan. And then number 6 is going to be this credit card up here. And then number 7 finally is going to be the student loan down here. Now, finally, we've got the cash flow method. This one really isn't talked about a lot. But what I want you to do here is analyze the debt that you have, and sometimes you're going to find things that are very close in balance and maybe even interest rates sometimes that, you know, if you just flipped them a little bit, you might be able to free up some cash flow a lot sooner. So let's look at this for an example. So we've got, you know, we've got 2 credit cards here. We've got $800, $3,400. We've also got this auto loan down here. $3,000 is all that's left on it. It's a really low interest rate, 1.9%, but it's a minimum payment of $350. If you've got not much flexibility in your budget, things are pretty tight, maybe by prioritizing this auto loan first to free up that $350 is going to relieve a lot of stress for you, because you now know that, okay, if something really crazy happened, I don't have this $350 payment anymore, versus, okay, if I eliminated this credit card first, I'm only gonna free up an extra $20 a month. So maybe you prioritize that auto loan in this example. So you then just say, okay, I'm gonna prioritize that one first, eliminate that one as quickly as I possibly can. You do so, and then you kind of look at some other things like, okay, what is there anything else that's kind of lower balance, higher payment? The personal loan, still, pretty high balance. Credit card number 3, still pretty high balance. After you do that, you free up some cash flow there. You're probably going to then say, okay, let me go back to, maybe you go back to the emotional method just because you want to pay off grandma, but maybe that's not a big deal for you. So then maybe you go back to either the lowest balance method or the highest interest rate method. Let's say then you do cash flow here first, get rid of that car loan, then you say, I'm going to go to the highest interest rate method. So we would go, we start with that auto loan, then we would kind of jump up here to credit card number 1. So we're going to say that's number 2 in this example here. Number 3 is going to be this credit card. Number 4 then is going to be this credit card here. Number 5 is going to be the personal loan. 6 is going to be the student loan, and then 7 finally is going to be grandma in this example. So those are the methods. Those are how you would rank those different debts based on the different methods that you have here. To explain more, to go over some additional things, let's hop back to the video. So that's how you prioritize the debts, but how do you know which method to choose? Well, this is something that you need to decide based on how you handle your finances. Other people on YouTube will probably make the decision for you and say this method is the best method. You should absolutely do this one. You're stupid if you don't choose this one. But I'm not that guy. I am the guy that says there are many options and you need to choose the one that works best for you, because there is no one size fits all. There is no method that works for everybody. But to help you determine which plan is best for you, let's go over some of the plans in a little bit more detail and talk about the psychological side of things a little bit more. So the lowest balance method is great if you like quick wins. If you're somebody that likes listing things out on a long list and being able to cross things off of that list as fast as you possibly can, you should really consider the lowest balance method, because you're gonna see things probably drop off of that list fairly quickly. And if that's what you need to stay motivated, to see things actually being eliminated, not just the dollar amount of your debt going down, but being able to say, I came in here with 10 credit cards, and after 3 months, I now have 9 credit cards, and I'm gonna be down to 8 credit cards in 3 more months. If that's what you need, the lowest balance method is probably gonna work best for you. The highest interest rate method is mathematically going to save you the most amount of money. Because you're focusing on the highest interest rate debt first and paying them off in that order from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, mathematically, on paper, it is going to save you the most amount of money. But just because it's going to save you the most amount of money mathematically on paper doesn't mean that in reality that is actually what's going to happen. Because what happens for a lot of people, maybe you included, is that you start on this highest interest rate method thinking that you're going to save the most amount of money, but you don't get to cross something off of that list that we talked about in the lowest balance method a few seconds ago. You don't get to cross something off that list very quickly. You're going to have the same amount of debts, 10 debts, for the next year. Yes, on paper you're saving the most amount of money, but you don't get to cross something off a list and say something is paid off in that time period. And if you become frustrated after that year's time period and you just go out and use your credit card and you buy more stuff, you're probably then going to lose all of those savings that highest interest rate method was trying to get you. So if you are somebody that does just focus on the total balance and seeing that go down over time, and you don't really care necessarily how many debts that you actually have and you haven't paid anything off yet per se, the highest interest rate method might work best for you. The emotional method can sometimes help you get over a stressful family situation. So maybe, again, you owe a family member, grandma, you owe her $1,000, and she is on a fixed income, and you know she needs the money, and it upsets you that you owe her that money. But based on emotions then, you say, I'm gonna focus on that debt. Oh, it's 0%. She said I don't have to pay anything, but I would feel much better. I'd have a huge burden lifted off my shoulders if I prioritized paying her off first. That's what's important to you, so you might wanna use the emotional method to do that. Now, if you then kind of go through some of those emotions and say, hey, I don't have it in, all the debt is now just debt, then you want to go back to probably either the highest interest rate method or the lowest balance method at that point. So you're probably not going to stay on the emotional method your entire debt elimination plan, but it could be where you need to start. The cash flow method could be good if you need to free up some cash in your budget, get yourself a little bit more flexibility. So if your budget is very tight, it may make sense to, even though, it might be a higher balance or a lower interest rate, it might be good to prioritize paying a little bit extra on a car loan that has a smaller balance. It's not that much, but there's other debts that have smaller balances. But you might prioritize that car payment because the payment is $350 a month versus the $20 a month minimum payment on the other card. So you can free up that $350 then to give yourself a little bit of flexibility in your budget if you absolutely need it. I hope that you take that $350 that you're not paying anymore and start applying it to other debts, but you do have some flexibility now in your budget so that you don't have to whip out a credit card or something like that if a true financial emergency came about. So let's take a look at a graph of these different methods in action on our example debt that we had that we kind of looked at the whiteboard earlier. So here's a nice visual comparison of the plans that we just talked about. So to kind of start off, let's look at the total number of debts that each plan kind of pays off over time. So if you remember from our example, we started out with 7 different debts. And if we look at, for example, the lowest balance method here, the one that's going to kind of prioritize paying things off as quickly as possible, it's the blue bar here in the comparison. You can see that we start off with 7, and then within about 5 or 6 months, we get down to 6 debts. And then 3 months after that, we're down to 5 debts. And then if you look at some of these other plans, like the highest interest rate method, as well as the emotional method, we're still at 7 different debts. We still have 7 total debts compared to 5. So with that lowest balance method, you might be going, oh, I can go from 7 debts to 5 debts in only a few short months, and that's going to keep me motivated. It's going to keep me going towards achieving my goal of becoming debt-free. Whereas if you would have went with the highest interest rate method, while it, again, would have saved you the most or the highest amount of money in interest cost, you could also see then that I've still got 7 debts left. Maybe you become frustrated at that point because that's not how you kind of function, and you kind of fall off the wagon a little bit there, accumulate more debt, and kind of lose all that saving that you would have had if you would have went with the lowest balance method. So again, you can kind of see this progression, and this is certainly something that you want to evaluate yourself. Everybody's plan is going to be different. Everybody's comparison of plans is going to be different as well. So you certainly want to analyze this yourself to the best of your ability. And I will link in the description of this video. There's kind of 2 things that I might recommend that you take a look at utilizing for your debt elimination plan. One is a spreadsheet that you can use in Excel or Google Sheets. I didn't create this one. It's one that's available from another company. It's called Vertex 42, I believe, but I'll put a link to that in the description. And then there's also a website called Undebt It. It's undebt.it, where you can kind of plug in your information and have some, kind of tracking of your debt elimination plan. So you can kind of use some of those to do this kind of comparison here that we're looking at. Total interest paid, so we're looking at total remaining debts here. So if you're kind of more of okay, I function better if I cross things off of a list as quickly as I possibly can, so you can really see the power of the lowest balance method here in this one. If we go over here to this total interest paid, you can see that the lowest balance method is going to cost you a lot more interest than the highest interest rate method, so about $1,600 there. But remember, what's going to keep you more motivated moving forward. Same thing with this emotional method. It's got the highest amount of total interest paid here with these different plans, but maybe you stay more motivated because you pay your family member off as quickly as possible, and then you're more likely to continue moving forward. And some of these other plans, while they have lower costs of interest on paper, on a spreadsheet, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to experience that. So that emotional method still may be the lowest total interest cost for you at the end of things, just because you were more likely to stick with that. Also, you want to look at here the extra payment amount. So this is so we started off with, I believe it was $200. So yeah, we started off with an extra $200 above and beyond the minimums that you were going to pay on your debt. This is kind of showing you as things get paid off, or how much extra available, what your debt extra payment is going to be above and beyond the minimum on whatever debt that you're prioritizing. So you can see here, this is where that cash flow method comes into play here pretty quickly. That within a few months, you're now paying an extra $550 on your debts above and beyond the minimum, so you have some flexibility in your budget now if you need it. I have certainly experienced, and the example that I gave you, there wasn't like a ton of difference here in some of these different plans, because you can see here with the lowest balance method, you get some flexibility pretty quickly as well. But I've certainly seen a lot of clients where this the cash flow method had a much bigger gap between itself and the next plan there. So they had several months of that flexibility before any of the other plans kind of caught up with that. So again, we're going to see a lot more flexibility here with the the cash flow method if that applies to you. So just wanted to give you a quick visualization. Don't forget to check out those two resources on how to kind of formulate your debt elimination plans. I'll put those in the description of this video. So let's get back to talking about the remainder here in the video we've got. So I hope you found that video helpful in determining what plan you are going to use to eliminate your debt. If you found it helpful, please click that like button below so we can spread this message out to the masses. And if you're new to the channel here, you need to understand that I usually don't recommend actually attacking your debt first. It's not the first step that I recommend taking. You need to start thinking about creating your financial goals, understanding your money, how you're spending your money, and you also need to build up a small emergency fund first before actually starting to eliminate your debt. And if you need to learn a little bit more about that, my methodology, how that actually works, check out this playlist right over here to kind of get you through some videos there to learn a little bit more about those steps that you need to take. And as always, remember that you deserve financial freedom. Take care of your money so it can take care of you later. See you next time.